This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so let me get our screen back up so we can see it. Okay, so new members this month are Living Goods here in the room and Global Partners for Development on the West Coast. We're really delighted to have you all in this movement. You are members 64 and 65 among the global members, plus there are dozens and dozens more in the national chapters. We are about a very big chore here, as you'll see from one of my favorite slides, and we are trying to transform the way the world does development. The world does development in a very patriarchal, top-down, sectoral, siloed command and control approach. It is maybe good for certain things, but it's not good for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And your presence on this call is that we want you to bring your creativity, your leadership, your ability to make things happen to this movement. We're not like a hierarchical organization where we will tell you what to do. This is a space for you to create and go for it with everything, all the creativity that you have. Because as you saw, this is a big rock to push up this hill, but we are gaining traction. We are making progress. We have proof of that, and it's still an uphill battle. And this year in particular, as we head into the big 2020 review year of the SDGs, it's really important that that rock gains some momentum. We have 5 goals in this movement. That flower that you see there with all the SDG symbols is because we see that it's at the community level, not only where the SDGs most of them will get done, but will have to be done in an integrated way. Ban Ki-moon, when he was launching the SDGs, pointed out that these complex interlinked challenges require an integrated strategy, but where that integration is most important is in the lives of women and their families in communities. So we want a voice and agency for women, youth, and marginalized groups. We want adequate community finance. In most of the areas where most of us work, less than 2 or 3% of public resources is in the hands of communities, whereas in the rich countries, it's typically 50% of public resources. So we say, and we want to call forth as a norm, that it must be at least 20% of public resources in the hands of local communities. We want good local governance, including transparency, effectiveness, people's direct participation in democratic processes, quality public services, which is a big theme of the SDGs, and resilience, which is fundamentally a community attribute. All the conferences I've attended and that you all have probably attended on resilience point out that there's really no such thing as a resilient person or a resilient nation. There's just resilient communities. And I know we've seen in lots of our communities that when communities are mobilized and equipped and prepared, they can deal with shocks immediately. They don't need to wait for the helicopters to come in 3 or 4 days later. This is our super simple theory of change. Our outcome at the right is we want CLD for everyone, because everyone has a fundamental right to voice in the decisions that affect their lives. Because of the mindset of dependency and resignation and paternalism, clientelism that prevails, communities really have to be mobilized. They have to be awakened, whatever word your organization uses for that process of waking people up to their rights and their agency. That requires mobilizers in every cluster of villages in the world, and that's people's experience. That's a full-time job. So we're talking, we need a couple of 100,000 full-time community mobilizers out there working. For that to happen, the governments are going to have to bless that process, and their aid partners are going to have to support it, and that's going to require in-country teams of advocates. So our national chapters, many of whom you've heard from, as well as those of us in the overdeveloped world that can advocate with the bilateral and multilateral donors, all of us need to do, as Anne was telling my boss just the other day, we need to advocate all the time. You can never take it for granted that people have gotten this message, because that rock is still getting pushed up the hill. We in this global secretariat are supporting, and the Hunger Project has, board has generously given us the resources to provide ourselves as a global secretariat. We have a set of regional coordinators that you heard from introduced. They are empowering country chapters, many of whom serve on the phone. And then there are also global working groups that are working to gather the evidence, the learning, and to probably our most important role is to try to get big piles of money so that we can work collectively in each country with our member organizations to achieve collective impact. So that's how we are set up. We don't have time for questions, but you can always email me. So now I'm going to turn the call over, and I'm going to switch what slide deck I'm showing you to my colleague Sylvia in Mexico, because they have done this remarkable program called the Municipal School for Community-Led Development. So let's see, I'm going to start your slides here. Sylvia, let's see, present. And what you should do, Sylvia, is when you want me to go to the next slide, just say next, and I will go there.
Okay, thank you, John. Perfect. So hello, everyone. I'm really glad to see a lot of people here in this call, and really glad we can share from THP Mexico this experience. Well, I'm Sylvia. I'm part of the advocacy area. I'm the Alliances and Public Policy Advocacy Coordinator. And well, what I'm going to be talking about today is this Municipal School for Community-Led Development. Next, please. So just like a brief context, as part of our model, the past 2 years we have been working on strengthening active citizenship and our pillar of effective partnerships with local government. And as a result of these steps, we have implemented the project Working Hands and Voices, Indigenous Community Participation in Municipal Governance. Next, please. So this project has we implemented it in the past 2 years, and its main purpose was to strengthen active citizenship, social cohesion, and governance in the municipalities where it was implemented through formative activities, spaces for dialogue and linking with other development stakeholders, as well as the articulation in advocacy projects and social programs, specifically in the municipal development plans. Next, please. So we have been this project was implemented in 2 of the 3 states where we work, that it's San Luis Potosí, it's the green one, and Oaxaca, that it's the blue one above. So we wanted to show you like where those states are, and why is it important to show this. Next, please. So just a little bit of context. San Jose Tenango in Oaxaca, the blue state. These are some of the numbers. both of these municipios are have indigenous and rural population. 73% of the population in this municipio is in extreme poverty, and in Tampamolón Corona, that it's in San Luis Potosí, it's 51.2% in extreme poverty. They have a very high levels of marginalization, and we have been working with in San Jose Tenango for 9 years right now, and 6 years in Tampamolón Corona. Next one. So as I was telling you, this project, Working Hands and Voices, had 3 strategies. The first one had to do with trainings to strengthen active citizenships. The second strategy was dialogue spaces to link with development stakeholders. And the third one had to do with a movement for advocacy. I know we all know that logo. And so, but today I am going to focus on the first strategy that has to do with these trainings. Next one, please. So what the name of this strategy was the Municipal School for Community-Led Development. And this was, as you can see in the slide, the purpose of this municipal school was a space for meeting, for training, and sharing knowledge between community leaders, local authorities, and other development stakeholders to co-create a shared vision that inspired to work collaboratively and achieve an integral development in which women, men, youth, and children feel fully exercise their rights, contributing to a good local governance. Next one. So this the school had 8 modules. And it was, as I have already said, it had 2 locations, one in Tampamolón Corona and in San Jose Tenango. The models were implemented, each session was for 2 days, and it was each for 2 weeks, and then they rested, and then again for 2 weeks, and so on for 18 months. Those are the names of the modules, and it is important here to highlight that one of the main purposes of this school was to be a non-tradition school. Why? Because these models were enriched by allies, but also and especially by local knowledge. What do I mean with this? That we implemented the models with the expertise of allies in these subjects, in these topics, and then we implemented it. And as soon that when we implemented it, our community partners were the ones making the relation between practice and theory, and made it we were able to modify some things so it would be easier and have more appropriation from the communities. Also, as I was saying, how the terms were appropriated was really important because it was not just saying, oh, this is social cohesion, or this is local democracy, or this is gender. It was all part of a reflection and dialogue, and they were actually saying, oh, so social cohesion is that, oh, we actually do that. It's not something that it's apart from what we do. So it was really important for in this process that they could make it, to make the connection between the practice and the theory. And also in this part about the learnings and modifications of the models, those learnings and those modifications were concentrated on a guide to implement the models afterwards. It is also a pilot that will be proven to make as many modifications as needed, but it was part of all this experience. Next one, please. So for the training the training process finalized with 30 people from Tampamolón Corona graduating from the school. They were 17 women and 17 men. And from San Jose Tenango in Oaxaca, they were 28 people. It was 11 women and 17 men. These leaders are part of 21 communities from 7 different municipalities. So also important to highlight that they now have all this knowledge that and they can become catalyst of this knowledge and of this school, so they can replicate what they have learned. But I will talk a little bit more in a few moments. The next one, please. So as part of the results, it's divided like i- into parts. The first one has to do with the results in the people, and those have to do with the appropriation of the dimensions of being a citizen. What does this mean? It that they know as individuals that they have rights and that it is really important to be an active citizen in their municipios, in their municipalities, so they can lead their development, so they can prove that CLD is the way of doing things. It was also important that they started making different connections and a new involvement with local government. They started, even though it's not constant, but they started talking with the government and seeing how the alliances could be implemented in order for their priorities to be part of the priorities of the local government. They became also promoters of human, social, and political rights, strengthening their notion and rights of indigenous people. This is really important because it's really different to know, like, oh, we have human rights, okay, we are indigenous people and we have rights. But it was different because now they know that they have like this power to make them to make their an adequate exercise of their rights. And also really important because of the gender perspective, that it's part of also of our pillars, is that women recognize themselves as owners and breeders of their culture and ways of life. So part of all these models, as I was saying, were reflection and dialogue spaces. So women that have also been part of the process with THP for 9 and 6 years, and new people we're seeing the importance of women's participation, not only in the public space, not only in the private space, but also in the public space. So they were now aware of how important this was in order to fulfill their their self-reliance. Next one, please. And in regarding communities, part of the results were strengthening community cohesion and increasing the importance of citizen participation and at the local level and in its relation with governance. In the part of the results in people, it was self-recognizing the importance, but now in this part, it was as a group, as a community, the importance of being together and acting actively in the decision making processes, and of course what was the importance and why they should work really closely and make partnerships with the local governments. Also, there was an increase in the capacities of advocacy and construction of alternatives to face their daily problems, with the intention of contributing to local governance. So they now have these tools in order to advocate for CLD, and this was also connected with the importance of our VCA workshop, our vision, commitment, and action workshop. So they know what's the vision for their community, and now they have these tools to make it happen a little bit faster. Also, the recognition, it was in the, as I was saying in the first part, as one as in as ourselves, the recognition of women, but also it was the recognition of the whole community, of the whole participants, that women's participation and distinction is important, to make a difference, to make CLD really happen. And this had to do to also see that they start the historical inequality that they have been facing. So it was really important for the community to see that it is not normal, that the women are just in the private space. It is not normal. It is not okay to let them aside in the decision making processes when it has to do with also their daily lives and how this affects. And it was also the new relationship with the municipal authorities, a dialogue in an informed and organized way, and really important, the intergenerational and diverse learning community, because it incorporated women, men, youth, who exchanged their experiences and perspective. This was really important as a result, because part of how in the indigenous communities, the traditional way of organizing is not necessarily all of these groups together. It's men, elder men, the ones making decisions, or just young men making decisions. Normally the youth is not, it's not necessarily taken into account. So it was really important to have in these spaces all of the all of the experiences and all of the perspective of these different groups. The next one, please.
Sylvia?
Yeah, I don't know if you are. I don't see the slides anymore in the.
Oh, could anybody else unmute? Are you seeing the slides?
No, we are not
No.
in the slide.
They
The
vanished.
the
Okay.
presenter has changed.
Okay, we will, I'll tell it to share it again. I wonder what happened. But thanks for letting me know. Okay, screen. We'll say, your application, and that's this one. Share.
John, I've just made you the presenter again. Some strange reason it had suddenly gone off.
So I was, somebody stopped me from being the presenter.
Somebody had. I just
Okay.
gave you the control
Shoshone
back.
just owned up to it.
Yes, we're all born button pushers. Okay, so are you seeing it now?
Yeah, thank you. So
Okay.
yeah, thank you, Jen. One of the most tangible results was that the creation of two development citizen agendas, one for each region, and these agendas were really important because they are a tool, where in the content, the communities, the participants of the school were able to propose alternatives to the problems that they have identified in their regions, recognizing their experience. Of course, it was also a possibility for collaborating with their local governments and social organizations, and also academia. So all of the content of these two agendas first, in the first part, is recognizing the importance of a perspective from gender, a perspective from human rights, and also the perspective of active citizenship, and how it is related to international to international and local laws, and how they are recognizing how they are related and how they can be achieved. So it also has all of the priorities that, as you can see in the right part, the main priority themes identified had to do with the right to food, with community water management, with healthy life, with the right to development, with relevant and quality education. And in this part of the relevant and quality education had to do with recognizing the indigenous part. It also had to do with adequate housing, decent work and economic growth, right to healthy environment, and right to information and access to technology. So what they did in regarding these priorities, they say how is right now the community in that subject, what's their vision, what's their commitment, and what are the and how the alliance could be made with different local development stakeholders. So it has that sequence in order to have more information for anyone that reads this agenda, especially the local governments, to see how they can work together to fulfill these priorities. Next one, please. So regarding the next steps at the community level, they realized that since not all of the community was part of this first generation of the school, they have to enrich the agendas with the vision of the rest of the community. Then they have to generate the same understanding within the community on specific topics, especially of human rights, gender, and active citizenship. So they have all the same understanding to be able to have different dialogues with local stakeholders. And it's also the next step is to have a second generation of the school and the first generation as trainers, and also identify and work closer with the municipal authorities to advance their agendas. So it says is at the community level, but of course we will continue accompanying the process. However, we will define different ways to do it with the purpose of strengthening the community processes, but being able to strengthen the CLD process, so that this process becomes sustainable, and that the communities generate an action plan on how they will follow up on their agendas, and defining and identifying the key actors with whom we will working with to continue promoting these priorities. And something that is important to say is that the purpose of this, one of the purpose of these agendas was also to make them part of the municipal development agenda plan. I mean, the municipal development plan. It was not. They were not able to make it happen in this right now, but the purpose is to continue making these priorities be part of the priorities of the municipal governments, even though they are not in the plan. So it's like that is not going to stop them to continue making these alliances. The next one, please. So part of our conclusions have been that we have seen that the results of this school are also related to the long-term partnership we have had with the community partners. It has been part of all of our model, all of the stages of our model, also that has to do with the mind shift, with empowerment, with working together with them to see the importance of them being the main actors of their development. And also even though this project has been a pilot and we are still learning from this, it has the necessary elements to be replicated and one of the tools is the guide that I told you earlier about all of the models, and this guide is really simple, so anyone, any NGO, CSO, or any community leader can have access to it and try to do this same process within the community. Another is that the Municipal School for Community-Led Development is another step towards community self-reliance and is related to the phase of active citizenship. It is really important for us to, in THP Mexico, to highlight that this is part of the process for the communities to be self-reliant, and it's not only for the communities to be self-reliant, but also to start creating self-reliant municipalities. So and this has to do with continue strengthening the pieces that are still not that strong. So for the CLD to continue the process, and not only in the communities where we are right now, but for the whole municipio as a part of our 2030 strategy. And also this process has strengthened and boosted actions that have been already happening in the communities. So the municipal school, as I have been continuously saying, has made them aware of the importance of active citizenship, about gender, about human rights, but the empowerment that they have right now is the main piece, because they have been all, even though the agenda was not part of the municipal plan, they have been doing things with the governments. For example, in San Jose Tenango, in Oaxaca, they have this relationship with the local government for them to have to make to make one more piece of the road that connects the communities with the main road, for example, or they have negotiated with the state government a community diner. They have also they have been doing things that have not stopped them, and this is the main evidence of how CLD is working, how those principles we have been talking about, we have been working with is tangible. This empowerment of the communities, knowing that they have the tools to talk and to do the partnerships with the different local stakeholders. And finally, our part of what's next for us as THP is to continue making mainstream the CLD and this process of the municipal school, so it can be replicated in different states and in different municipalities where we are not right now working, but with the movement we can be able, with the organizations that are part of the national chapter here in Mexico and the local chapter, we can boost and we can continue trying to pilot this strategy to see what happens in other contexts and with other rural and indigenous communities. And I think that's it.
Yay, Sylvia, thank you. Thank you. So let me see if people have any questions. There'll be a recording of this and a copy of the slide deck up on the website shortly after this call, if nobody has any questions now. But go ahead, please. Yes.
Hi, this is Andrea Findley from Ascension Global Mission. Sylvia, thank you so much for this presentation. It was so interesting, and it raised a number of questions, all good questions. The first was, I was curious why 7 different municipalities. So I'm not quite sure how the structure is in Guatemala. We work supporting an organization developing an approach in rural Guatemala, and most of the municipalities between 30 to 60 communities, and so I can imagine them wanting to do something similar or even adopt what you have all developed there. But I think their approach would be much more like, how do we get representation from the majority of the communities in one municipality in order to create a kind of a block for incidencia, for advocacy. So I'm curious kind of why it was so spread out within THP Mexico.
Thank you. Yeah. So when we made the invitation to the to the municipal school, it was different in Oaxaca and in San Luis Potosí. In Oaxaca, they were all part of the same municipio because it is a really, as I told earlier, it is a really marginalized municipio. In the case of San Luis Potosí, since it is more connected and it is easier to reach places, the invitation got wider, and also because some of the other organizations having presence in other municipios were also part of this school. And why it was important, well, it was part of our strategies to really strengthen and to really have these leaders appropriate the process so they can implement it in the whole community, so we can have like a more, it would be a wider way to reach communities. I don't know if that makes sense, or does that answers your question?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And then, do you have all these materials? I'm assuming you have them all available in Spanish, and are we able to access them?
Yes, I will send it to them to John, so he can share it with all of you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll put them on the same page with everything else from today. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you. We're going to move on to the next step, which is, let's see. I wanted to jump to coming events before we go, because we have a specific question. I wanted to get it to everyone before a few people may have to leave early. So the United Nations General Assembly is coming up in September. We are participating in two of the universal health coverage events, which is the big summit subject. I'm going to be speaking at one on the 23rd on behalf of the movement, and Mary Kate's going to be speaking at one on the 26th. And the one on the 23rd I'm particularly excited about, because this is a very high-level meeting with presidents and ministers, and you know, it's private and high-level and cool. So we will go for having them get our message at that summit. Matt, do you want to introduce the October 2nd event?
Sure. So on October 2nd, there's going to be an event here in DC. It's geared around the 150th birth date of Mahatma Gandhi, and it sort of came out. It's been an initiative within the THP for a while now, but it sort of gained momentum after the Interaction Forum this year, where we did a joint presentation on CLD principles using some examples from Relief International, and that sort of snowballed into this event, which is going to be a day-long symposium on three key aspects that we identified within the CLD movement that deal directly with practitioners. And there's going to be a series of keynotes and panels focused primarily on the words we use, our actions, and then our reactions based on feedback. And so we're in the process of finalizing the speaker list, but so far, just people that we've talked to, this is, they are interested in the event. And so we have information on the CLD website, I believe.
Yes. You go to our website /OCT2, you'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
We were waiting for a little more before like broadcasting it, but now that we have a venue and everything,
Yeah.
and I think as soon as we have the event right up, we'll promote it heavily.
So that's some background, and then I think we have some specific asks that you're going to go over.
We do. So one of the principles, in fact, Ian, why don't you talk about our not about them without them aspect of this?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So as we've been working on the national chapters of the movement for community-led development, this is Ann Hendricks-Jenkins, by the way, we are focusing on the need to make sure that people with lived experience and lived expertise are represented always. And when you do community-led development in communities, it's kind of a given, so you don't have to worry about that so much. But it's easy for something to drop off the table once you're at the national or the global level. So I think there's been a lot of deeper understanding and a lot of global movements about what lived experience means. Just because somebody is from a certain background doesn't mean that they can represent it or speak to it, but it is a precondition for building up a certain kind of expertise called lived expertise, which is that it's the first person experience of people who are can speak to the issue at hand. So the shorthand phrase, nothing about us without us, is kind of used in a lot of different movements around the world now. And so I think it's on us, a challenge, a global challenge, to figure out what that, how that can look in the movement for community-led development at the global level and also at the national level. Also, we know too that at the national level, in a lot of places where you're going to be meeting people from that country, it is a mistake that people make to assume that just because someone is from the country, they have the lived experience of marginalized communities in that country. And so we need to maybe open that up a little bit and introduce the concept a bit as well in the national chapter. So we're going to do some work in Malawi soon and also Zambia, and that's going to be one of our topics. How do we make sure that the lived experience and expertise is represented?
And specific to this event, so the October 2nd event, I know that there are people in our organizations here in DC that qualify as having lived experience. We have people from field countries who were born in villages, lived in villages, do have a lived experience of village work. There's not a lot of those people in Washington, sadly, but there are some. And for these panels in the October 2nd event, we want to make sure that each of the three panels has such a person on it. So as Matt said, the three panels are our language, our actions, our reactions to the feedback we get. So if you have within your organization somebody in DC or someone you can easily get to DC on October 2nd, I have no money to give you to make that happen. That will make this thing really true to ourselves. So please think of such a person. Let us know who you suggest as quickly as possible, people here in DC who have that lived experience, so that they can be included in the event. We're going to hopefully in the next few days finalize the speakers list. We've invited some super duper high level influential keynoters. We haven't nailed them down yet, but we've had any number of conversations with Mark Green's office, for example. So we're really hoping that this event can be a major catalyst in Washington, at least, for transforming this mindset that keeps having donors put the word, who are your beneficiaries, in their proposals. I always want to say, you, you are the beneficiary because you will get meaning in your life out of funding this project. But that's not what they are currently accepting as an answer.
Can I add one other thing?
Yeah, please.
We have a lot of immigrant people in the Washington, D.C. area, so a person doesn't necessarily have to be an international development professional to be able to speak thoughtfully to issues of community-led development. So you may know someone from other ways, not just from work, that would be a good representative of the community life in low and middle income countries.
Okay. And do these people need to speak English, or could we potentially have people who speak Spanish participate just in this part? And all parts, but
Great question.
We can manage a translator.
Yeah, I mean, if you can manage a translator with that person, I think that would be fine. You know, it's people. You know, it's people are. We've got the whole day. It's a good full day symposium. So, yeah, that's fine.
Just a question.
Yeah, Matt?
Maybe for the group, is it not just low middle income countries, but possibly also low middle income areas of the United States or Canada? To your point,
Sure.
there's different areas within one given country. So there's a lot going on in the U.S., especially when you have voices being removed from local communities.
Right.
So that could also be an option.
Great idea, yeah.
Could be. We haven't included domestic poverty fighting organizations in the movement to date. So,
Thinking like Dakota Pipeline, like
Yeah,
there's a lot of different areas.
And there's a lot that could be learned from anywhere in the world where people are trying to get the voice of the community out.
Yeah.
like,
So,
anyway,
like
just
Southeast
different ways
Washington,
of
D.C., for example.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, would you like? So as you'll see on the list of events, we also have the Zambia launch that Anne referenced a moment ago. She's heading off on the 22nd, 23rd or something to join Roland's and Marissa and to Reggie and the teams there who have been working so hard. We'll hear from them in just a moment. Also coming up very soon is the ICBD Like 25 Summit in Nairobi. I don't see any of our Kenya colleagues on the call today. I was really hoping they would be on the call. Maybe somebody has joined. Anyway, if you're sitting
Someone from Global Communities is on the call. Maybe it's from the Silver Spring office.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, but we're hoping to get our voice in there, so we'll follow up with the Kenya chapter to make sure that we have people at that and our flyers and our message. And then the AEA events coming up in November. Gunjan, anything you want to say on progress of the meta study?
We've been moving along. The groups have been working. The impact group report is almost ready. The scoping group and the eval group, we have interns who are reviewing the study. So we hope that by the AEA event in November, we will at least have the landscape of community development out, and we will be able to share it with the broader community and get their feedback. We will also be able to get their feedback on the tools that we have developed, both to understand the practice of CLD, that is the scoping tool, and a quality appraisal tool to understand the quality of the evaluation reports.
Great, and you heard from our army of interns introducing themselves earlier. We gave them a reprieve to be able to sit in this call today, but they are working night and day to go through all of this.
Sorry, John, this is Gunjan. Can I also do a very quick shout out, both for
please.
October and for AEA? So a big shout out to the subgroup members, but also to the Catholic University, who really helped us with the study by giving us interns and by supporting us throughout. And for the October 2 event, to Extension Global, Belief International, who are organizing and sponsoring the event, and to Global Give and Allison for helping us reach out to a huge range of people. And if you're interested or able to help us either in promoting the event or preparing for either AEA or the event, then please reach out.
Super. Okay, so I'm going to jump back now to our regions, and let's turn to Pascal. If you can, if you're still with us, Pascal, any updates? I know there's been a lot of, I just see a blizzard of emails coming from various West African countries. So can you give us an update on what's happening in West Africa?
Sure, John. Yeah, we have many activities, but I would just share one, which requests some input that we'll need to share with commune council that is Atieme. Recently, I have visited the council of Atieme, which is a commune where Hunger Project has established an epicenter. That epicenter is Penwe Epicenter. And one of the purposes of the visit was really to share with the council of that commune the gender-focused community-led development process, and to see how that council members could take it. And it's really worth mentioning that one of the good practices that is going on in that commune is the accountability session that's there late every twice a year. And that was really good. And one of those accountability session is planned for next September. And the coordination here of the CLD will be invited to take part of this. And one of the questions raised by the council is if the coordination of the CLD could make available to them a set of indicators that will help them to track progress regarding the gender-focused community-led development implementation at their level. So that is one question. And at the regional level, we are in exploration to expand the community-led development consortium to new members. That is the case in Benin, that is the case in Ghana, that is the case in Burkina Faso as well. And due report will be made available once we really extend and we have confirmation of new members. But I will also mention that we are now jointly with the global coordination of the CLD, I mean John and Anne, exploration for establishment of chapter in Sierra Leone and Centrafrique. And currently more information are expected for the contact person in those countries to move forward. And progress on with Togo chapter is going on, and they are finalizing a concept note that will be submitted to the World Bank. And we get the first draft of these from the global coordination as well, from Al particularly. Thanks for this. It's already going on. Thank you. That is some few activities I would like just mention. We have more, but I just mentioned those ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Pascal. And so if your organization, particularly if you are an INGO and you're in Sierra Leone or Central African Republic, we've got a lot of local groups wanting to get together, but we need somebody with a meeting room and somebody with an office in the capital city in both of those countries. Otherwise, it's just not going to work for them. So if you have a country director or an advocacy director in either of those countries who might be in a position to help bring people together, that's really our number one need for those two chapters. They've been pushing, these wonderful little CBOs that are really dying to promote this collectively. And they need a place in the capital city to meet and somebody with, some clout with the bilateral. So please let us know if your folks can be involved in that. Roland, can we turn to you and hear an update from Southern Africa?
Thank you, John. Let me concentrate on Zambia because one of the main goals we have in the region is to have at least one more national chapter opened, and Zambia was targeted, and that's on top of the Malawi national chapter that we already have in existence. So on there's Heifer Zambia, Child Fund Zambia, and the Hunger Project Zambia have been working really hard to talking to different institutions, the government, NGOs, to be part of this CLD local chapter in Zambia. And please, those of you that have got your presence in Zambia or any other contacts in Zambia that you would recommend to us, please mention them to us. I'll share, John will be able to share the email for Melissa that you can use to connect us to them. On 13th of September, this next month, there is a breakfast alignment session that has been planned, and that will be the first time we'll have all potential partners come together for that breakfast alignment session. And then on 30th of September, we are going to have Anne from DC come in to facilitate a capacity development process with us, which she mentioned during her presentation. She will do the same process also in Malawi on 26th of September. And then it's interesting to know that one of our main speakers at the breakfast meeting in Zambia on 13th September will actually be a senior official from the Ministry of Community Development, which is very key for us in Zambia. And lastly, but not least, we will be officially launching the CLD chapter in Zambia on 2nd of October. And we are extending this invitation also to all your contacts, if you have them in Zambia. Please, if you can spread it far and wide for us. Thank you.
Great, Roland. Thank you. Okay, so we don't have we don't have Daisy on the line today, but Tashome's there. Tashome, would you want to unmute and any news on formation of the chapter in Ethiopia?
Yes, in Ethiopia, our CLD activity is mainly focused on promoting the community-led movement on networks that I manage to attend, because we are some stress of budget to conduct meetings. So, for example, last time attending a meeting, which also have chapters like Save the Children, World Vision. And when I'm asked, when my turn came to talk about THP, I used this opportunity and promoted CLD and asked every member to get ready to join us and promote CLD movement. And I think the reception was good. The other is there is a network on migration. That is which NGOs work on addressing root cause of migration. That is that the youth are migrating to conduct risky migration. I'm saying risky migration because of lack of opportunities, economic opportunities. So we discuss such kind of issues, I also promoted community-led development for those NGOs, and I think most of them are happy, and for most of them it is for the first time they heard of such kind of movement. And these are the other issues is convincing individually NGOs for possible pre-consultative meeting on launching the Ethiopia chapter in September. These are what we have done regarding CLD in Ethiopia.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tashome. And our friend Omer also came to the UN events during the high-level political forum. He's a diaspora volunteer coordinator, but is one of our loudest advocates here in Washington, D.C., and Atlanta, and New York. He's really going to town trying to mobilize resources and support from the Ethiopian diaspora.
Yeah. I forgot that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, and then Alexandria, Vincent, Patrick, anyone in Europe want to comment on views towards revitalizing the movement in Europe? Any thoughts or comments from Europe? You'd have to unmute yourself first.
Yeah, this is Vincent. So in Germany, yes, I keep moving and pushing for starting a German chapter, a German CLD chapter, but nothing concrete yet. But early next year is what we envision.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And then let me just mention, I did mention earlier that on Friday morning I fly to New Delhi, and Gunjan and I have a series of meetings with different organizations that are very CLD flavored, and some of them are already engaged with this local governance initiative and network that's hosted by the Swiss in South Asia. Others are just working on their own. And I'm very excited, we're also going to Kerala, which is probably one of the places on earth where community-led development works the best and the longest. Kerala has just long been a model for how even a quite poor area can achieve dramatic improvements in social indicators through active citizenry and good quality devolution and capacity building. We'll be meeting with the head of the local government institute there, Joy, and hopefully learn a lot from him while we're there in South Asia. So I think that covers everything that I had on our agenda. Does anyone have any other comments or questions or topics they'd like to bring up before we close? Mary Kate.
So a couple of things. One, regarding our event during UNGA, the proposal was hand-delivered from our dear partners at Global Communities in Nairobi to the Principal Secretary of their Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They have a standing appointment this coming week to sit in person with their designated point of contact in that office to discuss the proposal. And at that time, they'll also inform them that Living Goods has confirmed a speaker from Kenya, Governor Mohammed Kuti from Isolio County. I'm sure I butchered all of that, but and then they also will be looking into seeking the same type of support from the Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Devolutions. They're now going through two different ministries to expedite the possibility of this UNGA event. Also, please let me know if you'll be at UNGA. Not only do we want to involve you in this event that we're hoping to host inside headquarters, but I also would like to coordinate with people to see how we can best leverage our time there with the influx of many members of parliament and minister representatives that'll be there, and also may want to take advantage of trying to meet with any CEOs, presidents, or other top executives in your NGO to discuss how we will, I guess, better mainstream staff awareness of being members of this movement going forward. And I think that's it for my end for the immediate updates.
Great, Mary Kate. Anyone else? Yes, Anne.
Anne here again with my hat as co-chair of the Research Working Group. If you don't know and love the Research Working Group already, this is where we talk about research methodologies that can support better understanding and evidence around community-led development. We have our next meeting on, and my co-chair is Janet Edmonds from Conservation International, and we also get a lot of help from Sarah Kosling from PACT. So thanks to everybody. Our next meeting is Wednesday, September 18th at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be talking about sustained and emerging impacts evaluation, also known as post-project or ex-post evaluation. We will have a presentation from Yindira Sikhan, who's one of the world's leading experts in it, from Valuing Voices. If you are not on that mailing list and would like to be, let me know. Or if you would like to get some details about this next meeting, let me know as well.
Okay, great. And will that one be recorded?
Yes.
Great. Okay, anyone else on the phone here in the room? Any other declarations of countries that you're going to launch a chapter in or anything else? Okay, well, thank you all for being with us. This was quite a record turnout, and as I mentioned, for August, that's truly a representation of the kind of commitment it's going to take to win this quest that we're on together. So thank you all, and I will be getting all the materials up on the web and emailed out to everyone later this afternoon. So thank you all. Bye for now.
Thank you, Joan. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Bye, Joe.